Hooday, Bengal fans. This is the Bengals Pulse, a heartbeat of our Cincinnati Bengals. He is Eric. I am Jake. And there is the man, the myth, the legend. Mon is here tonight. We got the whole crew. We are here to talk a little football, Mon, without the stash. How you doing, Mon?
Good. Was I in limbo there? Did I populate quickly, Eric, or no?
You populated like a
You
you
populated
populated
quickly.
like a
You
you
still
populated like
got it.
a gremlin. Just like a gremlin. It's like Eric poured water on you, and then
Hi,
And
Olivia.
you just came out.
hey, Olivia, how you doing, Olivia? Hooday, Olivia. Hooday to everybody out there.
Hello. Hey guys, I bought new equipment. That's why I bought this new adapter. I just want to see if it's working better, but we'll talk about that later.
I like this, Eric. I like this is different, right? Look at you, Eric. You are this.
Populating quickly.
I'm putting you up for producer of the year. I am doing it. I am doing it right now.
The Bengals Pulse producer of the year. I think I can win that one, right? Right?
You know what? We're going to give you a raise, $8 a year. It's up from
Ooh,
$5.
man.
Listen, though, if there was one, Eric, I would nominate you for producer of the year. Great job, dude, as always.
But do you know how to nominate me though? That's the thing.
I have no idea. Half the time I can't figure out how to change my own oil in my car. Okay. Hey, first of all, want to thank all of you guys for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. Our guy Aaron Butler is in the house. Aaron, it's the Aaron Butler that we like. Come on, it's Aaron
That's
Butler.
right.
That
Okay.
But yes, Hooday, Aaron Butler. What a great weekend. Even though the Bengals weren't playing, God, it was just a great weekend, wasn't it, guys? The Rat Turds get knocked out of the playoffs as always. Lamar Jackson drops to 3-6 for his career. I mean, there's nothing else to say. He is at the bottom of the food chain when it comes to elite quarterbacks. Mon, though I asked you before how your week is, buddy. How's your week been? I still see it's clean. It's still clean up here. When are we going to see the stash? The fans want the stash.
I'm getting a lot of compliments without it. Probably never. I don't know. During football season, I'll probably bring it back. But right now, I'm just going to go without it. And yeah, it was a fun weekend to watch football. I know the Bengals aren't in it, but I still love watching good playoff football. I'm a Bengal fan. I did enjoy seeing the Ravens lose. I mean, that's
of course.
It was entertaining, but I'm looking forward to Championship Sunday and talking about the Bengals. A lot of big news coming up over the next couple of days.
A lot of big news. Eric, how you doing, buddy? Before we get there, you good?
Yeah, great weekend. Not only did the Ravens lose, but we also got to see the whole world have the shadows pulled or the blinds pulled up and see the Chiefs for who they really are and the fact that they've got extra players on the field every game. I mean, what more could we ask for? Yeah, the Chiefs won, but the whole world got to see all the flops and all the bad calls, and finally somebody else is calling it like we've been saying for years. It's not just us Bengals fans screaming. So very good weekend.
Texans hung in there. I think CJ Stroud he's just not there yet. He might be eventually, but he's just not good enough to go into Arrowhead and beat Patrick Mahomes and the referees, right? I mean, you got to go ahead.
Sorry, you can't put it all on him. He didn't have Stephon Diggs, and he didn't have Tank Dell, and you take away Jamar Chase, you take away T. Higgins, and it's hard for us to succeed. So I'm not saying he's on Joe Burrow's level, but take away the weapons, and it's really hard to go out there and beat a team and the refs.
Well, I think too. I mean, I hate to say this, but I know we'll do our picks later on, but I don't see Buffalo going in and beating the Chiefs either. I just don't. I think it's a tall tale, and I don't know. We'll talk about that later. Let's worry about the Bengals right now because we got a big show. We got some coaching news to talk about, And tonight, Mon and I will be doing the offensive side of the football tonight, grading each position, starting with the offensive line and working our way down. So, guys, again, we want to hear from you. Make sure you give us your grades and your thoughts on each offensive position tonight. Yeah, we guys, we got a lot to talk about. Some big news this week already with a coaching hire, two coaches hired, both on the offensive line. Mon, the Bengals named Scott Peters the new offensive line coach. I think this pick is a home run, and maybe it's just because Coach McNally came on social media and said this is the best offensive line coach in the NFL. He also brings with him Michael McCarthy, who was his assistant in New England. He brings him with the same title as the assistant offensive line coach. Mon, tell us about Scott Peters and what you think about this hire. I love it.
Yeah, I like it too. I mean, Bengal fans know we've been talking about it for 2 years that we wanted a change on that offensive line, and we want better talent there. We want better coaching, and we got a new up and coming coach. I was a little perplexed this morning. My memory was a little foggy because I'm old, but I was wondering when Callahan left, why didn't the Browns hire Peters? Well, the reason why, remember Callahan when he left the as offensive line coach, he did that about 3 weeks after the season had ended last year. Well, Peters had already accepted the job with the Patriots, so he couldn't go back to Cleveland. So that worked out in our favor, actually. So, he's highly thought of. Yeah. And for McNally to really type that and talk about him, McNally, for you young Bengal fans, he was the gold standard in offensive line coaching. He was with the Bengals for years. Also, he went to the Giants. He's a Hall of Fame coach. And
Yes.
some worthless trivia for you. Remember the movie We Are Marshall, right? Remember that movie? When they rebuilt that team, he was the offensive line coach for that team when they took over after that horrible plane crash. So he was on that staff. Some worthless trivia for you there. But no, I'm glad Peters is on the staff. And listen, it's going to be a new technique. He's a MMA background. Trust me, that physicality that we talk about, the toughness. If somebody hits Joe Burrow late, I guarantee you this offensive line is going to do some, go to work.
Fight for him, right? They're going to fight.
Yeah, they are. They are. It's going to be a different mentality.
Yeah, I agree. And that's interesting about I didn't know that McNally was at Marshall. I think that's an interesting tidbit, and that's such a crazy story, and that was a really good movie too. I really enjoyed that movie.
When they started playing again after that tragedy, that
right.
coach Jack Langell was his name.
Yes.
He had to put a staff together, and Jim McNally was the offensive line coach.
I did not know that.
He was part of that. Yeah, there was an actor that played him in the movie, so it's pretty neat.
And he's big time, right? I mean, Willie Anderson, all those guys love McNally. I mean, he is still. Like you said, I mean, he's a Hall of Fame offensive line coach. And for him to give Peter such high praise, I think is huge. I mean, again, you and I were Bengal fans when McNally was coaching the Bengals. So for you and I, it's big when he steps up and says, this is a home run hire, that this is the best young O-line coach in the NFL. I love this. And I think too, when you look at his background, he's an AFC North guy. Like, he understands how to win in the trenches in the AFC North. He was part of that offensive line staff that, for those 4 years or whatever it was, Cleveland just ran a ball down our throats. So I'm excited. I think this is a huge pickup. And yes, Mark, exactly. That's what we're talking about. Anthony and Max Montoya both played for this guy. I mean, he's an incredible coach. And for him to say that this new Bengals coach, Scott Peters, is a real deal, Mon, is good. It's special. This is a home run pick. and a home run higher, I think, for Zach Taylor.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just to add a little bit on there, one of the things that just looking at now, when he played in college and in the pros, he was a All Pac-10 center. So what do we need help with? We need help with interior offensive line. So he played center in college and he played guard in the NFL. We've been screaming for how long that we need to fix the interior offensive line. Well, now we bring in a guy that's not just an offensive line guru, but he played those positions. So if it's technique that we need to fix these guys, he's going to be able to tell them how to do it. I get a little nervous when they hype a guy up because of his mixed martial arts and all that stuff. He is badass, but I do remember a whole off season of Jackson Carman training mixed martial arts, and everybody's saying he was it now because he was doing his MMA training. I don't think that this is anywhere in the same realm of that, but I'm going to pump the brakes on the MMA stuff until I see it on the field. Moving on, we do have other news that came up here too. Mon has talked quite extensively on how well Lou was valued in the NFL, and not everybody was believing that. Some of the other talking heads out there really thought that Lou wasn't going to go anywhere, but we did get news that Lou Anarumo was hired as the DC for the Colts this week. So congratulations to Lou. Lou Dini's going to get to cook some more. What are you guys' thoughts on Lou getting a job with the Colts? Jake?
Steven, put up Steven. I love what Steven just said. You got to put that up. That's fantastic.
Special guest, Mon Golden.
I like it.
The
Golden Mon. Oh,
put up this one. That's right. He looks like Mon with muscle. Head coach. I look like.
I don't think that's what Dolores was saying, but yeah, you can go with that. No, I'm happy. I'm happy for Lou. I mean, listen, Lou's a good football coach, and I don't know if you guys saw the Kelseys on their show, those two nimrods talking about, I can't believe they fired Lou Anarumo. Like, guys, we had the 30th ranked defense in the NFL. It was time to move on from Lou. So I don't want to – whoever they bring in, I don't want comparisons with Lou and all that stuff. Every single Bengal fan thought it was time for Lou to go. I'm happy that Lou got a job. I have respect for him. The NFL obviously has respect for him. And I'm happy for him. I just hope that he doesn't have to develop any young players, because if he does, the Colts are in trouble, Mon.
Yeah, no, I'm happy for him. I do think he's a good coach. Listen, two things can be right. The Bengals had to let him go. All right. But the Bengals front office didn't help him either. All right. So two things can be true there. All right. Yes, we talked about it last week. He had a problem playing or having confidence and developing younger players. And I think that was part of the reason. But I know for Kelsey to say that, Kelsey knows firsthand. They struggled against his defense. They really did. And I get it. And I wish him the best. I think he's going to do well. I just hope when he plays us, he struggles.
Yeah, agreed. But I'm happy for him.
And just to add on to Mon, two things can be true. I mean, we see that happen all the time. A coach is there for years and years and years, and their voice gets stale. The message doesn't work the same. The scheme may be great, but it just gets old. I mean, look at the Steelers. Mike Tomlin is a Hall of Fame coach, whether you like it or not as a Bengals fan. His message is wearing thin on those players. They win, they get into the playoffs, but he's becoming Marvin Lewis. And, sometimes it's time. Sometimes that coach needs to move on, get a fresh start, and go have success elsewhere. And it happens. Moving on to the next bit of news that really wasn't news to any of us, but as soon as the college football championship was over, and congrats to Ohio State for all of our Buckeyes out there in the chat. Very, very good performance for them. But as soon as it was over, reports coming out that Al Golden would interview with the Bengals. Albert Breer reporting today that the Bengals will interview him within 48 hours, and they plan to hire him unless things go astray. So we've talked about this quite a bit in our chat. I don't know how much you guys have gone into it on the show. So let's go over it here. Give us your thoughts, where you're excited, where you're not excited, and if you think they should be going a different route. Mon, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, you know what? I'm I'm a little lukewarm about it. I'm not going to bash him. I thought he did a great job with the linebackers when he was here. Uh, Notre Dame, they struggled last night, but he played a big part in them making it to the national championship game. He basically played a pro team last night. Ohio State is just unbelievable. About 7 first-round picks on that team. But him coming back to Cincinnati, he's familiar with Coach Taylor. Like I said, the last few weeks, this is, as Paul Daner said it on his pod a few weeks ago, this is Zach Taylor's one time to get it right. And we cannot have a defensive performance like we had this past year and the year before. So are you going to trust a guy that's never been a defensive coordinator in the NFL? Al Golden's been a head coach in football. He knows football. I'm not saying he doesn't. Or you want to go after a Dennis Allen. You want to go after a Salah or somebody else that's played or has coached at that level for years. I don't know. It's just one of those situations. I'm a little lukewarm about it, but at the same time, I want him to come in. He is going to be the coach, guys. Worst kept secret in sports. It really is. I mean, read the tea leaves. You knew what was going to happen. He's going to be our defensive coordinator. Who's he going to hire as a defensive line coach? Who's he going to hire a linebacker coach? Who's he going to, all these other assistant positions? That's going to be key because those are the guys who are going to develop, Osai if he comes back. They're going to develop Miles Murphy. They're going to develop Cedric Johnson. All these guys. Those are the important hires. I want to see who he's going to bring in because that's the future of the Bengals. I mean, let's face it. They're not going to have 20 new defensive players on the roster next year. A lot of the guys we saw this year, they have got to take the next step next year.
Well, oh man, I'm just I'm not sold on it. I do think it's funny though how Albert Breer and Adam Schefter and all those guys first reported by Adam Schefter. I'm like, Schefter, Bengal fans, we knew this shit 2 weeks ago. Don't tell us you were the first one to report it. You're not. We all knew that Al Golden, if you're a Bengal fan, you knew in your heart and soul that Al Golden was going to be the next defensive coordinator. We didn't want to, but it's what happened. And I'm like Mon. I mean, I feel just like Mon does. I'll be honest with you. I don't feel like he's got enough NFL experience. I think he's a heck of a linebackers coach. I mean, when he was a linebackers coach here, you think about how bad the linebackers were before he got here. And in 20 and 21, he developed Jermaine Pratt. He developed Logan Wilson into, guys, at one point, those two were elite tandem of linebackers in the NFL when he was here. And they have declined since he left, which I think is interesting too. But, as far as his play calling goes, I'm not worried about the game last night. Ohio State, they just were completely 100 times more talented. I mean, that stuff that you can't just base it off of one game. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Notre Dame had a top 5 defense the last 2 years. So, the guy obviously is a good coach, but I just don't know if it's NFL, how that translates to the NFL. I think there's guys out there. Again, you guys know I like Graham. I mean, I know Graham is interviewing for his second interview for the head coaching job in Jacksonville. So maybe he gets that. But I want to see a defense. I think this has got to be a home run, just like the offensive line coach. I think this defensive coordinator job has got to be a home run hire. And I don't know if Al Golden's a home run. I mean, guys, if they hire Al Golden, that means we interviewed 3 coaches for the defensive coordinator job. That's crazy. You have all these talented defensive coordinators out there, and all of these jobs are open. And I don't know. I said it in our text chat with Ace and Zim today. Is it a red flag that Al Golden's not getting talked about with anybody else? I mean, he doesn't have any other interviews lined up. You're not hearing his name getting thrown around. I mean, everyone says he's the best college defensive coordinator, but if he was, wouldn't you hear more about him on? I mean, am I crazy?
I hear what you're saying, but in league circles, I'll just say this: I think everybody in the league knew he was coming to Cincinnati. Worst kept secret. I think his son was still in high school or just recently graduated, maybe the year before. I think he still has a house in Cincinnati. Still has family here. I It was a done deal. I would not be surprised if these initial conversations, just buddies texting each other like, "Hey, I'm making a move in 2 weeks when the season ends. You're my guy." You know,
You know?
so
I
that's
mean,
what I
they could
think
have
has
gone back
happened.
way before that. Lou was
Yeah.
very close to getting that Arizona job. They could have had a deal in place then and said, "Hey, Lou's going to get a head coaching
I
job.
think they
You're
did.
our guy." That's probably what
Listen,
it was.
listen. I think they did. I think I texted you guys that earlier today. I really think that this has been in place all along. That last year, if Lou would have got a head job, that he was going to be Lou's replacement. I really do believe that. I think it's been in place for a. But I say that, but those NFL media guys reported it first today. So good for them. But
So let me, before we move on, because we do have to get to grading, but let me just counter y'all's points on this real quick with a question. We keep saying it has to be a home run pick. Does it have to be a home run pick? We have the 30-something ranked defense. If we improve 5 to 6 spots, we are in the playoffs. We're making a run at the Super Bowl. We don't need a top 5 defense. A top 20 defense gets us in the Super Bowl. Do you think it has to be perfect
I do,
for us
Eric.
to go where we need to?
Eric, listen, we cannot. I'm gonna steal this from Mon because I love him. But Mon always says this, and we cannot expect Joe Burrow to go out week after week and win football games by scoring 45 points. Like you cannot put that on Joe Burrow. Look at Kansas City is winning these Super Bowls not because of Patrick Mahomes. It's because their defense is lights out. Their defense is fantastic. Uh, that's the reason why they're winning all these AFC championships. Their defense is consistent every single year. Hell, I know the refs had something to do with it in 22, but their defense is the reason why we didn't go to our second straight Super Bowl, not their offense. So I do think this has got to be a home run. I really do, and I think it's ridiculous that we're still doing this buddy thing where Zach is like, I'm just going to hire all my buddies. And that way, when we're hanging out and there's not football going on, we enjoy ourselves or some ridiculousness. You can't do that. This is about the organization and the team, and you cannot do this buddy thing. Again, it worked with Lou for a couple of years. Guys, I'm gonna be the first one to admit, when we hired Lou, I was not happy about that at all. I will admit that. I was not happy about the Lou hire. And it worked out for a couple of years. He was a heck of a coach. But it's the same. To me, this is the same kind of thing where there's a lot of good candidates out there, and Zach is going with his buddy. I mean, we interviewed 3 coaches for this job. It's insane. There's so many talented defensive coordinators out there, and we didn't even sniff them. Mon?
Yeah, I just think we need to aim higher than just 24th, 25th in the league, 21st in the league. Again, like Jake just said, we know what Joe Burrow is. We absolutely know it. But why should we always put that pressure on him to be that? Let's get a defense ranked in the top 12. Let the defense come in and win a 15-10 game. Something happens, Joe tweaks his ankle or something like that. We have got to get better, guys. If not to sound like a Debbie Downer, this is not going to be a top 10 defense next year. I will take 7-8 points next year, but we need to keep on striving to be better than that. We really need to, and hopefully Golden can do it, because Golden's going to be the guy. He is going to be the guy. But this front office, Duke Tobin, Katie, Troy, Mr. Brown, you've got to do something. You got to replenish this roster. You got to. I know you're not going to sign 15 free agents, but you got to add a couple key pieces to help these young guys out, help your new defensive coordinator build a better defense.
Listen, I want to say this too. I want to say this because I don't want to sound like I'm bashing Al Golden at all. This has nothing to do with Al Golden. What I'm saying. What I'm saying is that as Bengal fans, we are used to this buddy thing, and it's just not a good look. It's just not a good look. It's not a good look that Al Golden is not getting a sniff from any other team in the NFL, and the Bengals basically said, we don't even have to interview anybody else. This is our guy. It's just not a good look. That's all I'm saying. If Al Golden is in stripes tomorrow, I will be the biggest Al Golden fan on this planet. I will root for him. I will pull for him. I will buy a shirt with Al Golden on it. But I'm just telling you right now, I just feel like this is not a good look for the Bengals organization to go out and get a guy who is not on anybody else's radar when all these talented defensive coordinators are available. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I want to apologize to all the young kids out there. This is the first Bengals Pulse episode that's had 2 curse words.
Are you counting?
I am.
Gee golly willikers.
We have 2. Who said 2?
You said the S word. He said the A word. You guys.
Oh, man. Oh, my.
Just to let all of you youngsters out there know, Eric and I are just talking how Mon talks on a normal basis.
Listen, honestly, the only youngsters watching this show are my kids, and I'd have to beep them if we let them in the room.
Yeah.
Olivia, you are watching. Comment in the comment section and just say facts, Jake. Just say facts so we know that is the truth.
So one final tidbit on the interview. I think everybody agrees they should have bring these other coaches in and interview them. I've been a hiring manager before, and sometimes you interview somebody that you just don't think is gonna even give you anything, and they end up blowing you away and being the right guy for the job. You should bring Dennis Allen in. You should bring Robert Saleh in. You should talk to these guys and find out. Maybe you don't hire them, but maybe they give you some insight into how you should be picking for that job or how you should be going forward. And you never know. Somebody might come in and just blow your socks off, and you're like, oh, my God, I can't believe we were going to hire this guy because this guy over here is amazing. There might be a 35-year-old defensive coordinator out there or defensive assistant that is that next protege, and you didn't even interview him. So I agree. They should have interviewed a lot more. This is Zach Taylor's one chance to get it right. He gets it wrong, he's out of a job. Moving on, what we're all here for, grading the Bengals offense position by position. We did the defense first because there was a lot of D's and a lot of F's, and we needed to come around. I don't think you guys gave out enough F's. I think there might only be one tonight. Let's get to grading the Bengals offense position by position. Let's have some fun with this. Those of you that are in the chat, give us your grades. Tell us where Jake is absolutely wrong and where Mon got it right. Once in a while. Let's start with the offensive line. Very shaky. I kind of debated breaking this up to tackles and guards, but we left it all together as one. Why don't we go with Mon first? Tell us about where this offensive line got it right, where they got it wrong, and give us your grade for the 2024 Bengals.
Well, I got PFF pulled up again. I'm going to reference that. But I will say this. The tackles are promising. I think Orlando Brown started the season really well, playing probably the best he's played as a Bengal. But he was injured, and then, we had Cochran and Ford who, had their moments, their positive moments, but they're not a long-term answer there. Mims is the real deal. He's going to be a long-term starter. He did have some rough moments. He really did. It wasn't always pretty, but he's our long-term starter. I'm excited about him, and I think finally we've got the tackles of the future. They're only going to get better. The interior offensive line play is probably bottom 3 in football. Karras is, per PFF, I think there was 40 rated centers in PFF, and he was ranked 21st, which is fair. He's average. He's the best part of our interior offensive line. our guard play needs a massive upgrade. Kappa's had lower leg injuries. He just hasn't recovered. He's a shell of what he used to be. Volson is just who he is. He's been a steady average player. He hasn't gotten really much better. He struggled last year. Cody Ford did replace him. We have got to get better at that spot. It is, if they roll into next year with those two guys starting, it's going to be ugly. I mean, I know we have a new offensive line coach that might get a little more out of them. We need to be better at the guard spot. That is our Achilles heel right now. To me, it's the weakest position on the Bengals roster is guard. That interior line play brought that unit's grade to D. The tackles kept them from being an F. But the guard play is absolutely atrocious, and it's got to get better. It has to. And it's got to start in the draft, and it's got to start in free agency. We don't have enough picks to allocate, to draft 2 guards. We have 6 draft picks, using 2 of those on guards. I just don't see them doing that. They got to go into free agency and get a good one. We don't want a Nick Scott of guards. We need a really good guard. And I hope they do that. D for me for the Bengals offensive line. Mims kept it from being an F.
All right.
I had you at a D plus. Did I get that wrong?
Let me yeah, he said D. Let me say this real quick. I do want to say this because Roland has asked a couple questions about this. Roland, we're going to be talking about the whole lease thing. We'll talk about that on the next show, but we are going to get to that, Roland. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on with the lease of the Hamilton County and the stadium and all that. We will get to that, Roland, I promise. All right, so offensive line play, it was terrible. I mean, it's atrocious, and it's crazy that we finished with the 9th ranked offense in the NFL, primarily because we had the 1st ranked pass offense and the 30th ranked rush offense. 30th, guys. There's only 32 teams. This Bengals rush offense was absolutely terrible. You look at they gave up 48 sacks. So 48 sacks is a lot, but obviously it's been worse the last couple years. 48 sacks this year, but numerous pressures. I don't have the numbers on how many pressures the Bengals had this year, but we as Bengal fans know after watching every single game, Joe Burrow spent a lot of time getting hit after the throw. He was pressured, at least 70% of the time every game. So, I think Joe Burrow really bailed out the offensive line at times. And not only that, but Chase Brown too. Chase Brown's explosiveness and his ability to make some stuff happen after first contact and his, his quickness and his fast twitch, he was able to, to make some plays on his own. So I think that made the offensive line maybe look a little bit better than it was. Mon's right. The guards on this team, honestly, I don't think they're going to be on the roster next year. I don't think Kappa will. And I think if Volson is, he'll be on the bench. I think you're going to see 2 new interior guards, and I think both of them will be free agents, Mon. I think the Bengals are going to go out in free agency and go get 2 guards because they know that the interior pressure is still an issue with this Bengals team. It cost us 2 Super Bowls because of the play of the guards and allowing that interior pressure. I gave it a D too. And again, the D was, Mon said it perfectly. I love Mims. I think Mims was a bright spot on this offensive line, just like when we drafted him. I knew he was going to be a bright spot on this offensive line. So I love Mims. I think Mims ended up being a good pick. No, I did not feel that way about Mims at first, but I love him now. So I think the Mims play, I think Orlando Brown played well. Trent Brown obviously went down and we didn't really get to see what that was going to look like. But Mon said it perfectly. Volson, Kappa, Kappa was literally PFF's worst offense. He actually won the triple crown of being the worst guard in the NFL. He ranked first in all the bad stuff. I think this guard play has got to be fixed, and I gave it a D only because of what Mon said too, is the way these tackles played this year. If the tackles did not play as well, it'd be an easy F. But I gave him a D as well.
And just to add on to that, if it wasn't for Joe Burrow, they probably get an F, because there was a lot of times that Joe Burrow scrambled and his mobility saved them from getting 10, 15 sacks a game. I think Joe Burrow really made them look better than they even were, and that's bad because they looked bad. There are some people asking if they think the new offensive line coach can fix Volson. I would say that he probably could provide some growth, but I don't think we want to see that as a starter. We want to see him fix Volson as a depth piece, if anything. With that, we will move on to another exciting position, running backs. We started this year off with Zach Moss as the bell cow. Zach Moss goes down, and everybody gets to jump on the Chase Brown bandwagon and say they knew it all along. I believe the Cincinnati Network and the Pulse knew that this was going to be what we get from Chase Brown. We just all expected to have Joe Mixon and Chase Brown. Jake, why don't you kick it off first? Why don't you talk about the running backs and give us your grade?
Jennifer, I don't know what you're talking about, Jennifer. I do not rant. I do not rant at all.
I got the mute button. I'm trying.
I love it, Jennifer. Good job calling me out. I need to be called out sometimes. Running back. This was an interesting one, right? Because Chase Brown is my unsung hero of this season. I love the way Chase Brown played. And again, just for you Joe Mixon haters out there, Chase Brown was not Joe Mixon's replacement. Let's be very clear. That was Zachary Moss, who is absolutely terrible. Imagine Joe Mixon and Chase Brown on the same football team where they're both getting those carries. Chase Brown, 10 yards short of 1,000, but I think really it's more of what he did in the pass game, right? He was the fifth leading receiver on this team. He had 54 catches, almost 400 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Combined, this guy had 1,350 yards and 11 total touchdowns on right around 280 touches. He had a lost fumble, and I know that was a big fumble. But listen, I love Chase Brown. I think he's a home run pick. Which, listen, the Bengals, we know that the Bengals draft quarterbacks well, running backs well, and receivers well. The other positions, maybe not. But those 3 positions, the Bengals usually hit home runs with. They hit a home run with Chase Brown. I love the way he played. Zach Moss will not be on this team next year and does not deserve to be. Khalil Herbert, who Mon really likes, the Chicago kid who we picked up midway through the year. He averaged 4 yards a carry, only had 28 touches. But I don't know. Well, it'd be interesting to see if he's a guy the Bengals re-sign in the offseason. Overall, I gave this position group a B, and it's because of Chase Brown. I think Chase Brown is one of the unsung heroes of this team. And I think next year, Chase Brown's going to rush for 1,300, 1,500 yards. He's that kind of running back. His explosiveness, the way he catches the ball in the backfield. The reason why this is a B is because of Chase Brown.
Mon, you're muted.
Mon, you're muted.
Sorry. The dog barking. Chase Brown, really, what can you say? You're right, Jake. He did make this offensive line look a lot better. He's explosive, slippery. Saying that, he still had 8 games this year where he averaged under 4 yards per carry. Yes, he had explosive runs. We saw that, especially towards the last 5 or 6 games, really took off. And you're right. we didn't talk enough about him catching the ball out of the backfield. He's going to have a great career. The one thing I'm worried about, he's 205 pounds. I just don't want the Bengals to run him in the ground. He's going to get 15 to 20 touches a game, pass, receiving, running. We need to get another complimentary back. The Zach Moss situation, his neck injury, he did not look really explosive and fluid when he did play. I do like Herbert. They need to get another guy in there that can give them 7-10 snaps a game to help out Chase Brown and protect him. Just imagine what Chase Brown can do with better guard play.
Right.
I mean, that's a scary thought.
Right.
So I gave them a C+.
Okay.
And I know, my son Jake, me and him went back and forth. He says, Dad, it's too low. But I think C+. It's just early in the season. What happened to Joe Mixon last year? We saw that with Chase Brown. He was getting, hit 2 yards in the backfield. These guards are getting blown up. So finally things started working out, and he started using his speed and athleticism. He is faster than Joe Mixon. We saw that, and we saw some unbelievable explosion out of the running back room there. I think the future's bright with him. We just need another piece there to help have that 1-2 punch. And I don't know if that piece is on the roster right now. C+.
Chase Brown is definitely more than a third down back. LW, you're my guy, but Chase Brown is definitely more than a third down back. He's the real deal.
I don't know. Maybe he's trying to say he's a 3 down back because he's now.
I don't think that's what L's saying, because I think L gave him like a C- or something.
Okay. Well, they did definitely say that he's a 3 down back now. He's definitely out there the whole time. His pass blocking got better, and they didn't need to take him off the field. One thing to note is Travion Williams is still on this roster, even though he didn't get a carry. I don't know if he got a snap this year, so it'd be surprising to see if he's still on the roster next year, or if we can replace him with somebody that actually can come in and contribute. Moving on to our next position grade, we're going to go to the tight ends. Big news today, seeing that we extended Cam Grandy. I know everybody was very, very excited to see that.
Everybody was worried about that one.
Very, very worried about that. We did have a big year for Mike Gesicki. Looks like Joe Burrow's out here getting tight ends paid again. A lot of people have maybe not forgot, but have got recency bias because we haven't been able to cheer for this. But Eric All had a really good season before he got injured. Tanner Hudson, outside of the fumble in the jungle that didn't go our way, didn't do a lot this year, but still was out there. So let's go into grading the tight ends. Jake, why don't you kick us off first? Talk about your favorite position, the tight ends, and give them the grade.
All right. Well, this one for me, again, we talk about the play overall. The play overall was Mike Gesicki obviously had an incredible second half of the season. Ended up with 65 catches, 665 yards, a couple touchdowns. I think that was the biggest thing on Gesicki was his red zone performance. I think we all thought was going to be a little bit better with his height and his ability to go up and get the football, contested catches, and that sort of thing. I do want the Bengals to re-sign him. I think Mike Gesicki is the perfect tight end for this offense and for Joe Burrow. I think he fits, and I really am a big fan of Mike Gesicki. Like I said, I think he really replaced Tyler Boyd in this offense. Eric All, he obviously missed quite a bit of the season. I like Eric All. I think he was another bright spot, another bright rookie. He ended up with 20 catches, 150-something yards. But again, he missed quite a bit of the season. Drew Sample, Tanner Hudson, they are what they are. They're not going to be guys that, make big plays and flashy plays and that sort of thing. And obviously Grandy, who just re-signed a 1-year extension today, more so for his blocking than anything else. This was a tough one. I gave this group a C+. And the reason why is because of Mike Gesicki, and I think the potential of Eric All, if he can just stay healthy. It's a little scary when a guy has that many injury problems, but hopefully he's good. I like the potential of Eric All, but I love Mike Gesicki, and I hope the Bengals bring him back. But I give this position group a C+ because after Mike Gesicki, just not really anybody on this roster that's explosive at the tight end position.
Ron?
Sorry, I was muted again. Yeah, I have a similar grade. It's not quite that, but Gesicki, they got to get him back. He was really, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I wasn't that crazy about that signing in the off season. He bounced around. To me, he's just a big wide receiver. That's what he is. But he was so productive for us this year. He exceeded my expectations. They got to bring him back. The price has got to be right. I know we're going to talk about free agency over the next few weeks, but man, we have so many needs and there's only so much money. I hope he comes back. He's going to expect, a nice little, jump in pay, but that production, his stats are really impressive this year. Eric All, to me, that's a tragedy. I pray he can come back because he was looking special 2 years in a row, tearing the same ACL and the same knee.
Agreed.
Yeah, I know doctors and medicine is, in this day and age, it's nothing like it was back in the day. Hopefully he comes back healthy. Don't forget we had the other tight end from Arizona that didn't really see the field this year. Is it Tanner McLaughlin? Yeah. So I'm excited about seeing him maybe a year in the weight room, get stronger. I remember Daniel Jeremiah was raving about that pick when we picked him last year. And of course, there's Drew Sample. Drew Sample is another offensive lineman. That's what he is. He'll give us a handful of catches. But, all of our tight ends are important. Joe Burrow really it was great to see him, use them this year. Cam Grandy, we joke around about it, but the Bengals love him. He's an undrafted free agent. I gave them, I believe my grade was a B. That was my grade for the Bengals tight ends. If Eric All was healthy the whole year, it could have been a B+ because Eric All, guys, you have to admit, was looking like our best draft pick. He was looking special.
He really was 100%. And you said it too, Drew Sample. Drew Sample averaged 5 yards a catch. 5 yards a catch. And like Mon said, he's basically a glorified offensive lineman. The Tanner McLaughlin thing is interesting because I expected more from him. And I think even when before the season started and we did our 53, I had him as one of the tight ends that was going to be productive because everybody raved about the pick. He was kind of he banged up but never could really make the game day roster. And I don't know the rest of this group besides Eric All and his potential, but there's injury problems there. So I'm good with the B-Mon. I think that's a legitimate grade. But after Mike Gesicki, I'm not very happy with the tight end room right now.
Yeah, listen, there's like I said, McLaughlin has to, get in the weight room, get stronger. The coaches obviously didn't have faith in him last year. Eric All has to get healthy. He's going to be PUP. He probably won't play until the second half of the season. We don't know what's going to happen to Gesicki. We could wish all we want. We don't know how it's going to. But we do know that Sample, he signed a 3-year contract extension. Joe got really comfortable throwing those tight ends, and so if Gesicki doesn't come back, that's a lot of production. Somebody else in this offense has to make up.
What about that kid from Penn State, number 44? What's his name? Warren?
Yeah, 6'6", 270 or something. He's a big boy.
He's a dude. That's what we need. We need that kind of tight end. He is a dude.
We're always talking tight ends up at the Bengals Pulse, aren't we?
Always.
I'll say one thing for certain. Their last comment on the tight ends is the Bengals Pulse definitely loves all the Erics. Well, let's move on. I'll speak for the Bengals Pulse on that one. One of our more exciting position groups, had a lot of ups for this group, but we did have some downs. We had a rookie wide receiver that we're not sure if was going to be on the team next year. Had definitely had some personal issues going through that kind of might have tainted the grade a little bit. We also started the season off with Trenton Irwin on this roster, and I think that's one of the things that you probably all are really happy with is we finally upgraded the depth and we're moved on from Trenton Irwin. So Jamar Chase had a triple crown year. T. Higgins had a really good year, but had some injury issues. Let's get to grading the wide receivers. Let's go with, I think, Jake, if you want to take this one first.
For me, I'll go with the grade to start it. This is an A for me. Again, not an A plus, and I'll tell you why not an A plus. Number one, Burton, to me, the rookie receiver you talked about, Jermaine Burton was just a huge bust. I mean, I don't even know how else to say it. I know that, you have to give a guy time to develop, and I get all that stuff. He's a rookie and all that. But he's not getting on the field because of his play. He's not getting on the field because he's a knucklehead. And, there's other players out there that were knuckleheads that straighten their stuff, straighten their life out and end up being productive players. I don't know about this guy, dude. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't feel like this is a guy that can turn it around. I just don't. I mean, when you're elite quarterback, the best quarterback in the NFL, and the captain when he comes out and says this kid's got issues without saying this kid's got issues, Jermaine Burton to me is just a huge bust. They went out to get him to replace, to help, replace and replenish losing Tyler Boyd. And Jermaine Burton had 4 catches for 107 yards. That was his stats his rookie year. So to me, that's just that's what knocked it down to an A from an A plus, because listen, Jamar Chase is the best receiver in the NFL, and T. Higgins is in the top 10 of the best receivers in the NFL. Maybe top 6. So I think we have the best 2 receivers in the NFL as far as a tandem goes. I will say another young unsung hero on this team is Yoshi. Yoshi has played really well this year. Started to really show that he could be that replacement for Tyler Boyd if needed. 36 catches, 479 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He was really that red zone threat that I was thinking maybe Mike Gesicki would be, and it ended up being Yoshi. So I love Yoshi. I think he was a home run pick. Obviously, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, I think, are going to be Bengals for a long time. This is still the best receiving core in the NFL just because of Chase and Higgins. But I give it an A because the rest of that group after those 3, Jermaine Burton, Trenton Irwin, I mean, we got no production out of anyone else but those 3. So that's why I went to an A, Mon.
That's fair. That's fair. I went with A plus, and the reason I went A plus is, guys, Triple Crown winner. I mean, Jamar Chase.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, he's just that alone. And let's face it, teams knew it was coming. I mean, the teams knew it. They knew it was coming, and they couldn't stop him. He's that dominant. But if you really look, Higgins and him, and I'll throw in Yoshi Voss and I'll throw in Gesicki. Those are 4 weapons that, I mean, teams, I mean, who are you going to stop? I mean, of course you want to stop the big guy, all right? But then guess what? Gesicki gets 110 yards a game, or Yoshi Voss gets a couple red zone touchdowns. And then when T. Higgins healthy and playing, that's another level. They got to find a way to keep those guys. I know the numbers are going to be astronomical. We have so many other needs. We've talked about them the last 2 episodes, defense and offense. You got to keep those guys. If T. Higgins makes it to market, he's not going to be a Bengal. Somebody's going to give him a crazy contract. Mike Brown's going to laugh about it. They got to get him signed well before that. I agree with the backup. So Burton, you know what? Newspaper clippings, everything that's happened, casinos, it's not a good look. It's a horrible look. Third round pick.
Charlie Jones.
Yeah, you can't. What's that?
Charlie Jones too.
Yeah, Charlie Jones. Yeah, you can't give up on him yet. I'm going to give him another year. Hopefully, he matures. Charlie Jones. He had a great kickoff return against the Browns. Guys, I think he was inactive last 9 games. I mean, we need to see more out of him.
Come on, he had 1 catch for 5 yards this year.
Right. And listen, Yoshi Voss improved a lot. We still need to continue seeing that improvement. We really need to, and continue trending up because he is. I'm going to tell you, an unsung hero. I mean, I like Trent Irwin, but the guy that replaced him on the punt returns, Williams was his name. Right? We picked him. Isaiah Williams did a great job. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing him come back. But yeah, some of those other draft picks, Charlie Jones, you know, Burton, guys. If Burton ends up getting cut, it's a bad. I mean, 3rd round picks are your roster core. Those are guys that turn you into a Super Bowl team.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not talking out my butt here. It's the truth. You know, everybody talks 1st, 2nd round. Your roster is made up of 3rd, 4th, 5th rounders. Those are the ones you got to hit on.
Mon, what round was Puka Nacua taken in?
Yeah.
5th round. Puka in the 5th round. Again, I'm not going to sit here and talk about the Rams front office and how great they are.
You sure?
But they're great, Eric. They're great.
They are.
They are great because they hit those 3rd and 4th and 5th round picks. They hit them every single time. And the Bengals.
Yeah, it is. It's been uncanny how many times they hit. You know, they said F those picks, and then they turned around and they did rebuild.
Frustrating.
You know, the only thing I'll say, it is very sad what's going on with Jermaine Burton, and we hope he's getting the help he needs. That still doesn't mean that he's got to be a Bengal. The only blessing that is coming from this, in my opinion, is having him go through that and having the Bengals be so excited for him and so excited for their T replacement, and to have him do that, I think it really solidified the fact that the Bengals know they have to sign T, and Joe knows they have to sign T. And I think if nothing else comes out of Jermaine Burton, if he's cut tomorrow, we can thank him because it's going to lead to a T extension, in my opinion. I don't think he sees the market. If he sees the tag, it's only going to be part of the negotiation to get him in a long-term deal. We're coming up on an hour here, so we got to get to the most important percent.
Hey, before we finish this, though, real quick, have we heard anything else about why T posted that today about thank God?
So for those that don't know, T posted on Twitter the prayer emoji saying thank God. So Twitter was kind of erupting, or X was erupting today, speculating that he had a deal. He did just post that, you know, I'm just praising God as I should praise him every day. So it was a little bit of a, I don't know, maybe there's something done, or maybe it was just genuine out there, putting it out there, or maybe he's covering his tracks now. Who knows? I'm going to be the homer, and I'm going to speculate the deal is done. They're going to announce T. Jamar all at the same time. Let's go.
I hope so.
Let's predict the day. It's going to happen on February 4th, 2025. Maybe we'll put it on the 5th. That's my son's birthday. It'll be a birthday present for Austin. With that being said, let's move on to the most important position, the only position that matters, the one that's going to bring us to 20 and Joe and take us to the promised land, quarterbacks. Let's start with Mon first. Why don't you give us the grade of our one and only quarterback that actually took a meaningful snap this year?
He fumbled in a game, man. He's C+. I'm joking. We're lucky to have him. We all know his stats. We know what he did. And if we made the playoffs, he'd be a legitimate MVP candidate. He was absolutely superhuman. I've used that word. He was superhuman, played out of his mind. He looked bigger. He looked more athletic this year. People don't talk enough about his athleticism. They don't talk enough about it. He was scrambling, hopping around, running for his life, and making plays. He is absolutely yes, I'm a homer. I think he's the best quarterback in football. He is the best quarterback in football. Dan Orlovsky says that. When it comes to throwing the ball, dissecting a play, pre-snap, all this other stuff, nobody can touch him. All right. Yeah, Josh Allen is a physical specimen. He's a bulldozer. He could play fullback. Lamar Jackson is amazing. Okay, his offensive coordinator, he has taken it to another level. Can't win in the playoffs. But Joe Burrow, and we're lucky to be a Bengal fans in this age, and the Bengals have got to set him up to succeed by improving some players around him. We cannot expect him to be superhuman every weekend. There's going to be some of those games it's not going to happen. And I just want, yeah, I like that. Hey, I like that. One last thing I just want to say about him: that wrist injury was a serious one. That was the ACL injuries, or is the equivalent of that for the wrist, is those small ligaments in the bottom part of the wrist. Some people are saying he was playing at 90% this year. It's actually not 100% healed. Imagine what this guy's going to do next year. All right, we just got to keep him healthy. Better guard play, maybe improve the running game a little bit, be able to run it well when we have to. We are going to win a championship with him. I'm not just saying that to be a homer. It's going to happen, guys. We keep him healthy. We are going to be NFL champions with Joe Burrow. It's going to happen.
We should have been.
A plus. Right? I'm sorry, A plus. A plus. AW.
We should have been Super Bowl champions. Listen, again, I don't like coming on here and saying I was right, but
that's the only reason you come on here. What are you talking about?
Ibuprofen for Jake. Ibuprofen.
Listen,
he prefers Tylenol.
You could see it since 2021. I have come on this show and have said this repeatedly for years and years. I've been called a homer. I've been called all this other nonsense. He's the best quarterback in the NFL, and he's been the best quarterback in the NFL for years. He is, and I'll be honest with you, there's a gap. It's Joe Burrow and then a gap. There's not anybody as good as him or close to it in this league. What Joe Burrow has done is absolutely incredible. Everybody thinks he has all of these great players around him, and he doesn't. Jamar is the best receiver in the NFL. I understand that. Joe Burrow has had a subpar offensive line since he came into the league. He has had a below average offensive line every single year. The year that we went to the Super Bowl, he was sacked over 70 times. This guy is unreal. He is a Hall of Famer. He should be the MVP this year. He's the best quarterback in the NFL. He might be the best player in the NFL. If you gave Patrick Mahomes his offensive line, Patrick Mahomes would win 3 games. If you gave, name them, if you gave Josh Allen this offensive line, he might win 4 games. If you gave Lamar Jackson this offensive line, he probably wins 4 or 5 games. Joe Burrow is unreal. He is the best player in the NFL, and it's not even close. It's not close. So I'm going to give him A plus. I'm going to give him, I think the last time I got an A plus on my report card might have been like 3rd grade. So I'm going to go all the way back to my 3rd grade year and give him the same grade that I got, A plus plus plus. And I think I got an O for outstanding behavior that year. That might have been the last time I got that too.
Jake doesn't even get A plus pluses, and he's the teacher that's handing them out.
It's so frustrating to me because we come on here and we get called homers and all this other stuff, but facts are facts, and the fact is that what Joe Burrow does week in and week out, no other quarterback in the NFL could do. None of them could. Absolutely. If you gave Joe Burrow Jalen Hurts' offensive line Josh Allen's offensive line, especially Patrick Mahomes' offensive line, we'd be going on our 4th Super Bowl championship.
Not the tackles, though. We don't want the offensive tackles for Kansas City. They're terrible. No, you're right. I mean, we're lucky to have him. I mean, honestly, we are. And this organization, I'll say this. If this organization does not win a championship with Joe Burrow, they never will.
I agree. I think that's about as true of a statement as you could possibly say. And if they don't, then they have done the fans of the Bengals, the city of Cincinnati, a huge disservice. And that's what they'll be known for the entirety. That's what Zach Taylor will be known for. If he does not win a Super Bowl with the best quarterback that has been in this league in the last decade, that's what he's going to be known for, is failing, just kind of like with Dan Marino. I mean, Dan Marino during that time was probably the best quarterback in the NFL, never won a Super Bowl, and that is what he is known for, and that is what the Dolphins are known for. And the same thing will happen if the Bengals do not finish the deal and bring home a ring. They will be known for the failure.
Eric, I know we need to do this. We're going to do free agency shows coming up. I'm just sitting here thinking about this offense, how phenomenal and unbelievable it is. All this money that's going to be going into the offense to keep it the way it is. We have to come up with a free agency show that says heart versus reality. What does our heart want? But what reality is going to happen? And we should come up with a list of things, because my heart wants so many things to happen. Guys, it's not going to be able to happen. It's just, I hate to sound like Duke Tobin, but the pie isn't big enough. So what's going to be that tough cut or that tough non-signing? It's going to be a lot to talk about over the next few weeks.
Yeah, that's a good.
It is. I love that. Yeah. And it's crazy too, because especially when you watch the playoffs, right, guys? Like watching the playoffs this year, I'm just thinking to myself, what a failure. What an absolute – we can turn this and twist this season however we want to twist and turn it, but it is an absolute disaster and a failure of a season that Joe Burrow is sitting at home watching these quarterbacks that are mediocre to him, the Josh Allens, the Lamar Jacksons, the Patrick Mahomes, the Jalen Hurts, watching those guys get to play in the AFC. Matthew Stafford. Yes, I will say
Jake,
that.
I got a message for you. I got a message for you, Jake. I got a message. Okay. This is from Heather, my wife.
Okay.
Jake, next, instead of me growing the mustache, you need to grow a beard when football season starts.
Yeah.
Listen, let me tell you, my beard is fantastic. And that is not coming from me. That is coming just from science. Like, that is a scientific – it's science. My beard is absolutely fantastic. It's phenomenal.
There's been a change in the administration. You could get sent overseas, buddy. I don't want to get into it, man. You need to be careful.
Mon, I got a question. Like, when we went on the Super Bowl run, the AFC Championship run, did we have stash or no stash? I think the stash came in 2023. Where were you at in that run? Because you made Jake sit outside. Did you have the stash or no stash?
I don't know. You know what? I think the first maybe 50 episodes, no mustache. And then the stash showed up. I don't know why. You know, here's what happened. We went on that 10-game winning streak. Remember, when, we lost the AFC champ. That's when I grew the stash. I'm like, man, it's happening. It's because of this. The energy is from the mustache. So I think I started that year.
But you didn't have a Super Bowl year, so you can't have it now.
Okay. All right.
Now, if we start the season 0-1 or 0-2, then you got to start growing the stash. We'll figure this out. Yeah,
man, I tell you, I just can't wait for. I know it just ended, but I can't wait for the season to start again, man. Let's build this roster. It was so much fun. I've been watching highlights, like every Bengal touchdown of 2024, and I'm sitting there, and it's like reliving the emotion.
I'm going to say this. If Joe Burrow stays healthy, and
when
I'm knocking on wood. When Joe Burrow stays healthy, I will say this right now: the Bengals will not miss the playoffs again. They will not miss the playoffs again. Joe Burrow.
Well,
Joe Burrow will us to the playoffs from now on, and yeah, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen again. As long as we have Joe Burrow, we'll be in the playoffs from now on. It will not happen.
I mean, we said it going into this year, but I definitely think that it hurt him, and he's not going to let it happen again. We do have a couple of games to talk about this weekend. One little note from Olivia earlier on, and speaking of flashing back and reliving things, Super Bowl crew was announced today, and it's good old Ron Torbert, and
What a clown.
I think
He's such a clown. God, I hate that guy.
They're really setting it up for the Chiefs to be in the Super Bowl. Hopefully that it doesn't happen. But let's talk about these games this weekend. As much as it pains us to talk about them, we got some games to talk about, and give us your predictions. Let's go with Chiefs versus Bills. I think we're all Team Buffalo on this one. But Mon, why don't you give us your thoughts on the matchup, and who do you think is going to win this game?
It's going to be tough. I want Buffalo to win. I'm going to be honest about it. I think they beat them this year, and I think overall, I think they're the better team. But I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist or anything. Playing in Kansas City, that crowd is crazy. Home field advantage in the AFC Championship game there is tough. And I mean, guys, trends are trends. They are what they are. I mean, we saw the stat today about all the last 11 playoff games that the Chiefs have played in, how the flag discrepancy is unbelievable. You can't make it up. You can't make it up.
It's 10-1. It's 10 in the last 11 playoff games. It's 10-1, Mon. 10-1.
I hate that. I really hate talking about penalties. I do, but how can you not? I mean,
they in the playoffs alone. In the playoffs alone, they have had 30 plus less penalties than their opponents. 30 plus. It's insane.
Yeah, and shout out to Warren Sharp for bringing that to light, going down the rabbit hole. I mean, the craziness of that discrepancy just points out what everybody has said for however long, and now the rest of the world is seeing it. The Chiefs are always on the beneficial side of those calls. So anybody wants to go down that rabbit hole, check out @SharpFootball on X. I think he even did a podcast today about it, so I want to listen to that. So, Mon, did you give us your prediction or just your want?
Oh yeah. I got the Bills winning. I'm going to say 27-21. Buffalo is going to go to a Super Bowl with Josh Allen.
Jake?
Let me just say this real quick. I want to jump back real quick to Tolbert here. How does that idiot still have a job? How is he getting the Super Bowl? If the three of us were crappy at our jobs, we would all be fired. And this guy gets promoted. I'm telling you, it's the most ridiculous thing in the history of the world that this idiot is still even allowed to referee football games. He is such a clown.
Well, one would say when you do what they want you to do, you get promoted.
Yes, right? I really, it's a bad look for the NFL guys. It's a bad look. Anyway, I don't want to talk about that. Chiefs are gonna win 20-17. I want the Bills to win, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The Bills are not going to be able to go in Kansas City. They're not going to be able to beat Patrick Mahomes, and they're not going to be able to play in that atmosphere and play against the refs and everything else that goes on in that crazy place. Unfortunately, we're going to have to watch the Taylor Swift thing for Super Bowl. It's going to be nauseating. Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad Baltimore's not in it. I'm just glad Baltimore got knocked out, but KC's going to win. It's going to happen. It's going to be 20-17 Kansas City.
I'm going to go. My son is he's kind of going into the down the rabbit hole of the theories too. I'm going to go with his prediction. I think that you're seeing a rematch. The NFL is really talking up the Commanders. We're seeing a rematch of Buffalo Bills Commanders. So I'm going to go with Austin. I'm going to say it's going to be Buffalo and the Commanders playing in the Super Bowl in a rematch, and maybe we'll get a rematch of a wide right or a missed field goal. Jake, why don't you go first? The Commanders versus Eagles.
Well, Austin's not going to like my picks at all because
He doesn't usually.
The Commanders. Mine are usually right, Eric. Just by the way, Philadelphia is going to win this football game. Saquon Barkley is the best running back in football, and you talk about a guy that has a job still. How in God's name did the Giants GM still have a job letting Saquon Barkley walk and signing Daniel Jones instead of him? I mean, that's got to be one of the worst personnel in the history.
Just to jump in there, if you watch Hard Knocks, if he just listened to his son, his son told him to sign Saquon. His son told him to draft Jaden. Like,
listen,
if he just listened to his son.
If that were my dad, I would disown him. I don't care if I was 7. I would and disown.
Who does your dad root for, though?
Who? My dad?
Yeah.
Like,
isn't he a fan of another team?
No. My dad's a big Penn State guy. He's from there. But NFL, he roots for the Bengals because he knows that I'm miserable when they lose. But he pulls for the Eagles too. I mean, but he loves Saquon. Obviously, he's a Penn State guy. Listen, the Eagles are going to win this football game. They beat the Commanders with a backup quarterback in the regular season, and I'm not even going to mention what that backup quarterback's name is because it's embarrassing that the Commanders lost to him. But I'm going to say Eagles win 28-17. That Eagles defense is really good, and we're going to see a rematch of Eagles-Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Mon?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really close game. They obviously in the same division. They played twice this year. They split. Both very good competitive games. Washington, I remember when we lost to them, I was really demoralized because I didn't think they were a good team. I was wrong. Washington has a top 5 offense. They are really good. That quarterback is the real deal. Daniels is a stud. Saying that, I'm just going to have to go with the Eagles because of home field advantage. Playing at home in a championship game is huge. And when it comes to physicality, they are a physical team, probably the most physical team in football. Hurts, if you can slow down that run game, slow it down. You can't stop it because Barkley and Hurts is just unbelievable. Commanders will win. But I just think it's going to be a close game. I'm going to say 38-35. Eagles are going to win this game in one of the better, probably the better game of the two. And it's going to be a high scoring game. Commanders could possibly do it, but I'm going to go with the Eagles 38-35.
I just have to ask have you guys watched Jaden Daniels play? Like, he looks not his type of play, but when you look at him, his demeanor on the field, he doesn't complain about plays. When he's on the sideline, he's stone cold dead. It's Joe Burrow's demeanor. This guy is cold-blooded. He is an assassin out there. I'm going to go with Jaden Daniels. I don't know if it's LSU or just their recruiting, but man, he's got what Joe Burrow has when it comes to the killer instinct, and he can take off and run. I think that killer instinct is going to get him to the Super Bowl.
He's a dude.
I don't know. He's got something else. He's got that thing that you want your quarterback to have, that thing that Andy Dalton didn't have for us, the thing that Carson Palmer didn't have. We hadn't seen until Joe Burrow. Jaden Daniels has that, and it's hard to bet against a quarterback that has that.
Yeah, I agree. He's a dude, but Saquon Barkley is a dude too. Have you seen Saquon Barkley? I mean, the Eagles' defense is just disgusting, absolutely disgusting. And we'll see. I mean, I love Jaden Daniels coming out of college. I think he was the best quarterback coming out of the draft. I think the Bears once again screwed up not drafting him, just like they screwed up drafting Trubisky over Patrick Mahomes. I think they did the same thing with the Caleb and the Jaden thing, but I think Jaden Daniels is a stud, but they're not going to beat Philly in Philly. I just don't see it happen.
Yeah, we'll see.
I just hope we get 2 good games, right? I just hope we get 2 good games.
I don't want 2 good games. I want a good game where the Commanders win, and I want the Chiefs to get blown out. Because if it's a good game, who's going to win that game? The refs are going to win that game. That's all I'll say about that.
That's probably true. All right, guys, that is another edition of the Bengals Pulse. As always, if you like this podcast, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Make sure you check us out on all the awesome podcast platforms, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify. As always, if you like this podcast, make sure you give us that 5-star review. We very much appreciate that. As always, follow Mon on Twitter at @TheFireMon. Follow me on Twitter at CoachJakeOwens9. Follow Eric on Twitter at eFlash for 2 H's 88. Follow the Winston Podcast Network on Twitter at WinstonPod. And as always, guys, follow the Bengals Pulse on Twitter at Bengals_Pulse9 on Instagram. The same without the at Bengals_Pulse9. And as always, guys, check out all the awesome podcasts right here on the Winston Podcast Network. If you did not catch the Wincy show earlier in the week, you need to check it out. AJ Green joined Ace and Zim. It's an incredible, incredible interview. Check it out on the Winston Podcast Network. It is a great show. Mon, did you want to say something? You're muted, Mon.
Sorry, man, the dog.
You good?
If you guys are on X watching, please go over to YouTube and hit subscribe to Cincinnati. Please do that. A lot of people just are on X. Go over to the YouTube page and hit like and subscribe, please. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Hooday to all of you out there. We appreciate you guys, and we will be here right back here next week to talk about the matchup in the Super Bowl. And obviously, a lot more Bengal news is coming down the pike. He is Mon. He is Eric. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse. Hooday, Bengal fans. We'll
Thanks,
talk to you
guys.
next week.